Hey, what's up, guys? Good morning. Please don't watch my really messy room. Oh my god. How's everybody doing? Okay, listen. So, what am I saying right now? I have recorded this video like 10 times. So this video is actually giving you guys context. Welcome to my channel. Hi. Yes, I'm on your YouTube screen. I'm really bad. If you're new here, welcome. If you're old here, I'm sorry. I find myself always apologizing, but I wanted to give a little life update and a little like random thought stream. But this video did cut off at a certain point. So this will be like a little bit of an incomplete thought, but I do think it's worth listening to because I do think there are things in there for someone. So I'm still gonna run the video. So if you'd love to sit down, let's sit down and have a little catch up. But hopefully I will be dropping more videos, but I'm gonna explain to you some of the things that have been going through my mind and things I think important to share at the time. But I'm in Greece right now, so I will record more videos probably whilst I'm here because I'm resting. I'm on holiday, yay! But anyways, let's get into the video. What's up, beautiful people? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy whatever day you watch this. I feel like I'm always apologizing on YouTube, but like I feel like it can all be explained. For context, I'm currently in Greece. I'm in Rhode Island. And yeah, I've been reflecting a lot, right? And I realized that the key to me actually making content is actually just having enough space to think. I think us creators are grossly underestimated how much we actually have to do when we just make a simple video. It's not just like writing a transcript or something nice. It is that there's a level, I mean, depending on what you do, for people like me, is that there's a level of real vulnerability that has to be shared. Now, why am I making this video? Yeah, I mean, I'm making this video to kind of hopefully continue on trying to get something out there that I think is important, that I need to share with the world. Now, of course, over the last few years, I believe I've gone into a deep season of not really needing to be on a platform. And really because, like, I think as you grow older, I'm 25 now, like, just some things just become a little bit more urgent and important to you. And it's more important that you honor those things that are in your life than for you to ignore them. And yeah, I think since graduating in 2020, you realize very swiftly that like, only a few people are cut out to do some of the things that we see happening all across your TV screens. And now more than ever, as there's more people doing work and life in such unique ways, it also requires so much, I don't even know what I'm saying. Anyways, in some way, I kind of want to share about some of the changes I've been going through over the last few years, and kind of like catch you guys up on the story of my life, and hopefully whether it is that we continue a story or we don't, it's just to catch you guys up, right? 2020, I left university, I graduated, and I went straight into self-employment. That's been the craziest journey. I'm still self-employed. Sometimes I often like to call it fun-employed. This idea that you are doing so much yet nothing at the same time, and sometimes it's hard to kind of find a thread of stability in between. But I graduated in 2020, went into a season where I realized very deeply that social media and all these things, it's a great space to be in. It can do so much for your life, but it's also quite damaging. And having to go through the real effects of being in front and doing the majority of your kind of like younger life on YouTube is like tough, because you're constantly approaching or meeting people who have a checklist of who you are, but really at the other side of it, there's this deep desire to actually be known and be fully known for who you actually are. And that's like really tough to deal with, really. If I be honest, right, is that you're constantly being demanded for who you no longer are. And there's this constant evolution that in some degree you have to keep up to be relevant. And the moment you reject that, you begin to lose your relevance. And in a sense, you begin to lose your voice. Now, of course, that's not true. You never lose your voice. You always have your voice. Your voice is yours. But I think it's incredible to find that the moment I had less of a deep desire just to make people laugh on here and to talk about profane things that I don't believe in anymore, the moment I started to see that there was a decline. But here's the thing. I needed to be obedient to what I believe was a call in my life, which was to just surrender every part of me, which meant whether it's relationships, friendships, put things down, like to seek a deeper meaning, to get more in contact with the part of me that is actually, that actually persists to live. Everything else is dying in me. So yeah, the last few years have been incredible. And I moved to Manchester last year. I've been in Manchester for about a year. And when I say about a year, I haven't really, I travel very often. So I've probably spent about 9 months or 8 months in Manchester. But I've moved there for about 12 months. And as I reflect on the season, as I'm in another transition, and whether I'm in this idea of entertaining whether I stay in the country, move to a different country, and there's all these demands on my life, and there's so many messages, and God has given me so many things to think about, ruminate on, and it's like as I reflect on these moments of my life, I'm reflecting back on why it's so significant the last few years, and why, in a way, I'm sorry, but I'm also not sorry. 2023 June the 1st or 2nd, I moved to Manchester. But 2 weeks before, May something, I remember going to Manchester, and I remember feeling the vibrations of a city the same way that I felt the vibrations of a city that really defined me. That was Leicester. Leicester was the place in 2016 where I started this YouTube journey, and I would go on to share all the difficult things that were happening in my life. I would show the journey of me being kicked out of university, where money was raised for me, paying my school fees, getting kicked out, doing uni again, winning student finance, the battle, changing some litigation along the way, changing some laws along the way, creating some change along the way, empowering some voices along the way. I didn't, and creating this cool show called Ask the Mandem, all those different things, and put them down. And it's like, oh, then suddenly come back in 2023, like, hey guys, I'm changing the name of the channel to my actual name. What's that about? And throughout the years, listen to people saying, bro, like, yo, bro, you messed up the bag. You messed up the bag. And just P.S., I didn't mess up the bag. God is in full supply looking after me, in abundance. So I didn't mess up the bag. That's number one. And I don't say that in the flex. I say that to say, really, the point is, even in that statement is, like, when you follow the call of God, like, provision isn't a problem. Your heart is. That really, like, provision isn't a problem. It's just how it looks like for me is different to how it looks like for you. And for me, it might seem that I have to walk more in faith, which means I could encounter more doubt along the way. There's less security along the way, but provision isn't a problem. I want to make that clear, that when you follow God, provision isn't a problem. But yeah, I 2020, yeah, in May 2023, I end up in Manchester, and I feel this real sense of, ooh, I need to be in the city. This has to be where I need to be. And being that I work for myself, I'm not tied to any place. And I was in a tech company, working with a tech company. I was consulting another tech company, and then I was in another one building another tech company. Plus, I was building my own businesses at the time and trying to chase a few things. And so I was like, I could move and still do everything I wanted to do. And in fact, being signed to an agency at the time, if I moved to Manchester, I would have to be in London less and to be in hotels less and spend less money on certain things. And I'd be able to just be where I need to be and focus on what I need to do. And I do all my content creation at home. And I had this dream of like, okay, cool, I'm doing the Instagram thing really well. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to create in a different way. And I wanted to create ads. I wanted to create stories. I wanted to just narrate and tell stories in a different way, which I have been doing. But like, I entered in this city, and everything just clicked for me. I felt the same vibration, the same hum that my soul deeply knows. That you know, that hum of knowing that, bro, if you just obey this little thing, you probably might find everything. And that was what I felt in Manchester. And 2 weeks later, I moved to Manchester. And here's what was interesting. When I went to Manchester that day, the thing that changed, the thing that was a confirmation for me was, I remember listening to a sermon that said, it's time to run your best lap yet. Prior to that, a year and a half before, God had kept me on 2 Bible verses. Hebrews 12, therefore let go of all unnecessary weights. I think it's Hebrews 12 or Romans 12. Hebrews 12, let go of all unnecessary weights, for the race of life is enduring, right? Then 2 Timothy 2, which kind of talks about fighting the good fight, run this race, run the race of life. I think it's 2 Timothy 2, but 2 Timothy essentially, in 2 Timothy, it's this idea of running this race, fighting the good fight, keeping the faith. Those 2 verses were like verses that really defined that whole period of university to like when I moved to Manchester. And when I went to Manchester that weekend just to see a friend, I felt this hum. I felt this vibration deep inside my soul. And then I went to church, this new church that I wanted to go to. And I remember hearing just 2 verses.
being the sermon kind of anchor verses, but then also then the title of that was "It's time to run your best lap yet," and this was the first year that I had actually said, you know what, I'm actually going to quit athletics. Like I have no desire to run any more competitively. Like it didn't work out the way I wanted to after giving so many years of my life to it. It didn't work out, and that was like a huge breakup for me. Like it was a huge heartbreak thing for me. That this year of like and I'm talking, you're missing lunches in school, you're missing dinners, you're missing events because you're training all the time. Like it was a huge thing to give up. And what was incredible about that moment was I moved 2 weeks later and everything just moved in place and I was able to find a place and move. And this is me moving out for the first time properly outside of university on this job. And then the next 6 months would be what I would describe as hell. I would end up going to Canada for a month to see some of my friends, but that really felt like a mission trip where I was really pouring out to a bunch of people I really love up in Canada, a bunch of people that we were connected so deeply and doing life so intentionally with each other. So I would go and I would pour myself out again, come back, and then the next 6 months would be the most trial in 6 months I would ever experience. I would doubt God, I would doubt myself, I would go through everything, and I'd be in the midst of this promise whilst not seeing anything look like it's going well. And like that often is life. And I think through that period, I was grossly reminded, like, of this. I love this story of Abraham's promise, Genesis 12 or Genesis 15, somewhere in between there is the whole story, right? That we see Abraham get promised this son, that he's going to be a father of many nations. And you see him calmly living his life. And then his wife reminds him one day, yo, remember that God said that thing, like, Wagwan for God, where is he? And then you then see he and his wife then try to co-create the promise and create an Ishmael. And then Isaac then comes eventually. And so there's this journey to the promise, but the promise looks like it's never going to come. And it's like Manchester has been this period of like, bro, God, you told me to come here. I believe you told me to come here. And even if I got it wrong, I moved my life on a word in hope of you in search. Whether I was wrong, Lord, you have to find me because I've laid it all down. So much so that even on the YouTube and everything I was doing is like, I went through a period of like having to really surrender my voice because it was important that like I wanted God to know that I will put everything down, my relevance. I will put it all down to be known by you and to know you. I think most of us want to know God, but I want to be known by God. I have a deep desire to be known by him, not just know him. I want to be known by him, right? I want it to be, the Bible says that, some of us will say, oh, yeah, I did this for Jesus, but I wouldn't even know who you are. Like that makes me tremble. I don't want to just be somebody who lived a Christian life. I want to be somebody that is known by God. Like God knows. And I'm like, I made a vow to myself in Leicester one Sunday as I gave my life to Christ for like the 20th time because I was like, God, I will keep putting myself down, my life down. I keep surrendering this thing until one day the parts of me that I put down that I don't want to pick up stay on that altar. That I'll keep putting it down until I don't pick it back up. So YouTube and all the parts of the personas that are really me, but are also parts of me that are dying, that parts of my flesh that are being cleaned, I put them down. And in the midst of obeying that word, I felt myself in more of a season of heartbreak. But here's what's beautiful. The joy comes in the morning, and I've been through a tremendous journey of homelessness, accusations. I went through a period where, I had minor, just so many issues, and I experienced just lots of things that like would break you, both physically in my actual life, but then also online. And I learned deeply when I reflected this period of what seemed like outward silence, that God wanted to show me that what I'm trying to give to you has to be more about understanding. All right, so this is the part where I'm re-recording again. So you've probably watched this, and yes, it cut off in between that word. And I think what I was actually trying to say
if I remember correctly, is I think I went through a season where I believe God was trying to show me that what He gives me is not as the blessing isn't what He gives me. The blessing is that that He can give me something. And we see in the story of Abraham and his son Isaac, and that this long life after this promise has been promised, the promise then gets fulfilled, at least the first part, which is, oh, you're gonna have a son. And then he's like, bro, like, we're old, like, how am I gonna, like, bro, kids? Anyways, he has this son, so now he can, I guess, begin to start to maybe fathom, okay, cool. God said that all the stars in the sky, that's gonna be my descendants, right? So, okay, God has given me one star, so okay, it is possible. Now I can begin to fathom the next. And then God then says, bro, bring the son, bro, like, chop chop. And I can just imagine how he felt, but I think God has, through the changes of season and through the considerable amount of surrender I've had to do with every platform I have, with everything I do, which is I keep putting it on the ground. God reminds me that it's the blessing isn't that He has given me a promise. The blessing is that He can make a promise to me. It's that I'm in a position to hear from a Father who speaks. I'm in a position to be in a relationship so valuable that the blessing is Him and Him alone. And I have to get that right, because where I believe He's taken me, I need to understand what's important, because there will be good things that will sit in my lap. And it's important to be grounded in the fact that anything that God gives me will be valuable. But the most valuable of them all is the fact that He gave me Himself. And no matter what I get on this journey, no matter what I lose on this journey, I have everything because I have Him. And I know that these thoughts seem to be a bunch of sporadic, and in to some degree, I've spent the last few years trying to make sense of my life, and it's like trying to find a rhythm of purpose, and like, okay, God, like, okay, I've done this, I've moved here, I've moved to Manchester, and nothing is moving. I'm not famous. I don't feel like I'm doing ministry. I don't know if I'm doing anything that you say I should be doing. And more people keep telling you about all these amazing things that you are, and more people keep telling you about these great things that you're going to do. And everyone's like, bro, you're so great, bro. You're going to do this amazing thing. And you can't see the path unravel. But if God gives a promise, He will never be void with His word. And there's an encouragement in that. And in some degree, like, the absences of my presence on YouTube is the evidence of my deep desire to continue to surrender everything. And I made a promise to myself in 2017 when I gave my life to Christ again, for probably the 20th time in that year, which is quite odd. Some people might say, well, if you keep giving your life to Christ, did you really give it in the first place? But I am more to the side of, Lord, I will keep surrendering my heart and my life to You until the things that I leave on that altar I don't pick back up, which means I don't care if you see me come down in church on Sunday and say, God, I surrendered to You. I'll keep doing it until I see that there's change that's been made, that I don't pick up the things that keep making me stumble. And so I made that promise with God in my heart that Lord, I will keep putting things down so that I can be certain of that which You need me to pick up. And when you can put the promise underneath God's sword, He won't let you destroy what He has said He will do. He will in fact defend it. And I love that God says, as they were going up to the mountain to Abraham and Isaac says, well, Lord, God, like, Dad, where's the lamb? And you see the Bible say that I will provide myself the lamb. God Himself will provide a lamb. And I believe that I have had to go through a period of what seems like outward silence, because I'm going through a period of, like, there is a war inside of me with a million voices, and it's important that I decipher what is the most important voice in my life, because I believe that God's taken me to a place in which I will continue to speak to people, but it's important that the place I stand doesn't become the idol, but rather
the voice that I defend and bear in my heart is ultimately the most important thing. And for any leader, anybody who's interested in leadership or like finds themselves being, unfortunately, in a place where people seem to be connected to the things that you say or things that you do in some way that you find yourself an example, you're going to find that the most effective ways that you lead in your life is by living it well. And it's not living it perfectly, but living it well, right? Living a life in which can be modeled, that the principles and core foundations of that life, even in all its imperfection, is a system that produces fruit. In a sense that you have to be in a constant state of closeness to the proximity of your own heart, because the softness of your heart is your leadership. And in some ways, I've learned over this last few years that in laying so much down and, going from a place where you've grown up in the public eye and feeling really, 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 really relevant, and then people kind of looking at your life, and it seems like to their measure you're not successful. To their measure, like all the people that you maybe started the journey with, YouTubers, everybody, they're all doing these amazing things, and you're not doing those things. So it's like you're not successful. You squandered the opportunity, but you're here sat, and you realize that you found the real treasure, at least, or at least you're on the journey of discovering that there's real treasure outside of that. And I think a lot of my silence has to do with the fact that I believe I'm honestly really treasured, in the sense that you can't take something away from me that I will give up. And that is a dangerous person. Somebody who will, like, it's so countercultural that you would rob me. Like somebody steals a pair of my shoes from me and says, "Hey bro, give me your shoes right now." And then as they run away with them, I call them back and say, "Hey bro, hey, you forgot my wallet. There's some money in here. Like, probably will help you, hopefully, and God bless you, bro." Like, it'll be so weird that somebody tries to rob you and then you give them more and say, "Hey man, take more from me." But I believe God has been preparing my heart to be in a place where people will take from you, you will have even more to give them. And so I've been doing a deep work to make sure that I don't just appear to be living a life, that I'm actually living life. And I guess the part of the video that I remember now that I really got really deeply into, and I'll share this and I'll round up with this video because it's been quite long for you guys. I apologize. It's really this. I love that in the Bible we see lots of beautiful images of the disciples following Jesus, and actually as they follow Jesus, you find that they ask a lot of questions, and actually I love that these questions appear because they show us really of our humanity. In fact, most of us miss the fact that these are not just endearing questions. In fact, the questions amongst themselves also prove a real big fact that these disciples care subconsciously so much more about how they look than actually how they actually are. In fact, we know that one huge characteristic of a lot of disciples in the Bible is that whenever they prayed with Jesus, a lot of the time they fell asleep. And I find it funny that in Luke 10, we see one interesting interaction of Jesus comes down. The Bible says that he was praying in a strange place, or in different translations would say in a specific place. But Jesus was praying somewhere. We find that Jesus always prayed away from people. His prayer life wasn't about show. His prayer life wasn't about preaching in the temple. His prayer life was really about him seeking God. It was private. It happened in private. And you see in this example, it says Jesus was there in that odd place. Then he comes back and his disciples say, "Hey Jesus, can you teach me how to pray like John the Baptist's disciples?" And there is nowhere in the Bible that specifically tells us specifically maybe how their prayer looked. Maybe it was like a ra-ba-ba-ba, or a school, like a yeah. Like, we don't know that, right? But actually what we do know is that they preach a lot of repentance. So if you look at the time and the way the time would depict what this might look like, the image might actually look like a lot of spectacle. In fact, that there were a lot of miracles and things that would happen that were wow. It was like, oh my God, because God was trying to do something through his people. But also when Jesus came, Jesus was redefining what people would think of those things. That miracle, when Jesus did miracles, it wasn't that he was doing miracles to prove to people that miracles are cool. He was using miracles to show that he is the Son of God. And ultimately it leads to people's salvation. People get saved. It wasn't just for show. It wasn't just spectacle. But we find that the disciples asked Jesus to teach them how to pray like the fervency, or in terms of whatever character was associated at the time with John's disciples. And Jesus, I love in these interactions, you never know if they really said something that's wrong. In fact, it was endearing. Like, Lord, teach us how to pray. That sounds good. But actually, then Jesus answers, hey, this is how you should pray. Hallowed be thy name. We know the scripture, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. That, like, Jesus says, oh, like, it's like, wait, it's like, hey, this is the right way to pray. And I love that in that story, what you're actually seeing is Jesus is correcting them from seeking to do things that just look good, but actually about doing something that heavenly, in a godly way, in a lawful way, is actually effective. That Jesus changes the image of what effectiveness looks like in prayer by first tackling the simplicity of the power of prayer. That it isn't in how you shout, it isn't in how you look, but is in the posture of the privacy in the heart that you model in front of God. And I love that. And in a way, my desire is to live a life that is postured properly, not just to live a life that looks good. I don't want to be, there's some people that sit upright when they're in the presence of company, but they actually really, really slouch really badly in the presence of other people. I don't want to be a person that has a bad spine outside of the presence of people. I want to be somebody that my posture in my life is good, that I don't speak well when I'm in front of people. In fact, that I do speak properly in private, that actually there is constancies and parallels in my life that are considerably the same, that in every area of my life, somebody can say, I know you, that is him, that is him, that is him. And now in the age of social media where we can polish different versions of ourselves and put it out there, we can show people different sides of ourselves, or at least we can show people higher versions of ourselves that even us, we have actually not finally actually attained. And really for me, I do not want to be in a space just trying to show you guys all the cool things I've been doing, because I've been doing cool things. Like, there are really great things that happen in my life I'm fortunate enough to have, and I'm really grateful for them. But I'd rather actually really just make sure that I'm actually grounded in what really matters than sometimes just post about the favorable things that might make you a little bit more envious of me, or maybe even saddened that your life might not be as beautiful as it actually is. Let's actually be real, and that's what I actually desire with most of these things. And so that explains my silence and all these things as to why I go away. And of course, I will forever keep apologizing, but I don't really feel guilty because like, as we grow older, many of you will know, like, you're getting older, priorities change, and I think at 25, it's far more important that my metrics of success is more on what type of son I am, what type of friend am I, what type of husband will I be, what type of father will I be, what type of friend will I be, less than what type of YouTuber will I look like and what type of personality will I be accepted for. Those things to me are far more important right now and really for the rest of my life. And I hope that we can journey together as we evolve through these things. And it's no longer enough for me to try to live my life under the tick box and the guise or the acceptance under the guise of what people say that I should be. It's far more important that I be who I say I should be, and that's it. And that's really what I want to share. And I think this video should be somewhat in one way whole. I hope it recorded. If it didn't, then this would be the last time I try. But this is the end of the video. I love you guys. Let's keep talking. I will try to continue to put more out there. But of course, I would love to engage in real conversation. So do let me know in the comments below what you find that you want to know more about, what you want to understand more about. Now, I'm a Christian and my faith is a real part of me. And of course, I will speak about other things. But there's nothing outside of my faith. Really, everything is intertwined. And in fact, I live my life from the leading of God's voice. So I hope that doesn't scare you, but in fact, rather embraces you to the fact that I will be authentic and real and honest about these things, rather than give you nice inflammatory responses that will go viral. I only seek and desire that you have a better life than you have right now, or at least that you can be joyful in the life that you have, that you can be amazed at how beautiful your life already is. But I only seek for us all to live better lives. So, love you guys. Peace. And we'll speak very, very, very soon. Did that record? It did. Amazing. I've just added another 14 minutes.
Anang ngata 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 sutu